today we have the honor to have Dr. Scilla Elworthy in our interview. It was very hard to research you, to synthesize everything, because you have done and accomplished so much in your life. But one sentence I found very interesting that summarizes quite well, I think, in my opinion, your life experiences, is that you turn vision into action. And this is something that deeply struck me when researching you. And as well as your current work with your book, The Business Plan for Peace, and also the online course and the conferences that build on the insights from the book. Before that, you have also founded Oxford Research Group that focuses on developing effective dialogue between nuclear weapons policymakers. You have also founded Peace Direct, which has been awarded the Best New Charity Prize in 2005 to support and learn from local peacebuilders in conflict areas. You have also been an advisor to people like the Archbishop Desmond Tutu and Sir Richard Branson, and you were also awarded the prestigious Niwano Peace Prize. Another fun fact, I think, is you made a TED Talk on nonviolence, which has been viewed more than 1.4 million times, which is absolutely amazing. And the last aspect that I wanted to mention, but definitely not the least, you have been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times for your work with the Oxford Research Group, and which is also absolutely amazing. So we are very incredibly excited and grateful to have you here today, to have your precious time. And on that note, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mark and colleagues, and I'm glad to talk to you. And you asked me to start by talking about, is there an emerging opportunity coming out of the current pandemic global crisis? And I definitely do see this as an evolutionary opportunity, as you describe it, to begin working towards a far better world. I believe that what we're going through is a very powerful message from nature, if you like, that is almost saying to us, you didn't listen when the floods came, you didn't listen when the fires came, you didn't listen when the CO2 in the atmosphere went up and up. So now maybe this pandemic will shake you out of your sleepwalking. At least that's how I perceive it. I think we are now at a time of major decision in humanity's trajectory. I think this is a huge point of change and possibility. And I'll say why, because those who want to take advantage of the extra powers given to them, those less democratic rulers, will try to benefit from the fact that many of us have become quite obedient to what we're told to do. They've devolved much stronger extra powers to both local and national government. And I see the likelihood of a lot more authoritarian rule, lack of press freedom, lack of opportunity for people to stand up and voice their opinions, but more particularly much more artificial intelligence used to control ordinary individuals and their movements and even their views. So that's the darker side. And that would bring with it as well further exploitation of the Earth's resources, further encouragement to use fossil fuels rather than renewables, and so on. The other opportunity that is coming up is for us to use what we've learned in the past weeks about how humanity can cooperate. The amount of kindness and selflessness and community spirit that has developed and is being remarked really everywhere is extraordinary, and people are beginning to realize that we don't need to be so separate, that we can help each other, and valuing that possibility of collaboration and community. And that carries with it a lot of things. That carries with it the growth in self-knowledge and self-awareness, which I regard as vital, enabling people to manage the way that we live with each other in a much more creative way, but most importantly, enabling us to get over national boundaries and act as a whole integrated planet, a whole world, acting together to deal with the threats that we human beings have created to our life, to our ecology, to our whole planetary environment. So I think those are the dangers and the huge possibilities that emerge out of this crisis. You asked me the question, if I could address the world's population right now, what would be the key message I would want to share? To me, the key message I'd like to share is that all the common sense that I'm hearing in my inbox, in the people I talk to, is coming from below. It's like a grassroots common sense coming up from below, and also a great deal of strength from natural younger leaders, natural leaders. And I see that as huge possibility. And what I see at the other side is this darker future of authoritarianism that I've just described. So I believe that now is the time for us to be really getting clear, and people who are students have a huge role to play in this, really getting clear about what kind of future we want and mapping it out. Because very often things that come from the grassroots can be a little discombobulated, that's an amazing word in English, can be a little disorganized, sometimes a little vague and idealist. And so we need to get real clarity on how the world's finances need to be governed, whether we want to continue enlarging the rich-poor gap, which is critically injurious to most of the world's people, and so on. So I'm just scrolling down and looking at what else you wanted to know. My life journey, well, what I was always motivated by was what happened really when I was quite young. When I was 11, my 4 big brothers gave me a shotgun and taught me how to use it. And so I went out into the woods alone and did something that was taboo. I stood under a tree and I saw a nest high up, and I pointed the shotgun upwards and pulled the trigger. And down on my head came pieces of stick, pieces of egg, pieces of shell, pieces of baby chick, and the sky blue feathers of the mother bird. And I was so shocked at the violence of which I was capable that I took the gun home and never touched it again. And I think that probably led to another experience when I was 13, when I was sitting in my parents' lounge watching a grainy old black and white TV. This was in 1956. And I watched Soviet tanks charging into Budapest in Hungary and mowing down students who had their hands up against the tanks like this, killing them. And I was so shocked that I rushed upstairs and started packing my suitcase. And my mum came up and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to Budapest." I had no idea where Budapest was. And she said, "What for?" And I said, "There's something so horrible happening there. I have to go now." And she said, "Don't be so silly." And I burst into tears. And she got it, bless her. She understood how important this was for me. And she said, "Okay, I get it, but you're much too young to be any use to anyone. You're only 13. You need training. And if you will just unpack your suitcase, I will see to it that you get trained." And she did. She sent me off age 16 to work in a holiday home for concentration camp survivors. And from then I took myself to work in orphanages in Algeria after the Algiers War, in refugee camps for Vietnamese refugees, and then to live in Africa for 10 years, and so on. So I was I think I was, in a way, one of the lucky ones, because there was never any doubt in my mind what I needed to do. If we believe in a soul path, mine was quite non-negotiable. I needed to try to stop violence or help assuage the results of violence. And so these lessons that I learned, these crises, were incredibly useful. And there was one more to add, and that was that when I was, just after my daughter was born, when I was 30, I got a brain disease called encephalitis. And it put me in a coma for 2 weeks. And after that, 6 years of terrible, terrible migraines, really unbearable head pain. And there was only one phrase that went round and round in my brain. And that was, who am I? Who am I? What's the purpose of my life? What am I doing here? And it was the investigation that brought about to try and answer those questions that really shaped my life, to know that the inner work we do to answer those key questions is vital to us being able to become capable of making change in the world. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So then you want me to talk about my home as a springboard for transformative contribution. Well, home means to me a safe place that I know my way around it, not just in the sense of the physicalities, but also I know how to be self-sustaining. I'm lucky enough to have a garden, and I grow nearly all my own vegetables from my family and friends. And that is sanity for me, being able to work with nature to feed ourselves. And just being in nature, especially in very beautiful nature, is life affirming for me every day, every day. And you wanted to know how I felt about having visited Home for Humanity several times. And I love that place. I love what Rama and Alexander do there. I've helped them plant trees there. I helped them get married, actually. I had the honor of officiating at their wedding. And I found they are full of beautiful ideas, and they emanate the kind of kindness and relational guidance for all of us for the future. I really think they're icons in that way. And maybe we can talk about the Humanity Manifesto later in answer to questions. So I'll pause there, because that's quite a long piece from me, and ask you to take the interview in whatever way you want.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. We have indeed many questions. One that arose when I also researched you and researched your book was in one of the websites, and I think it's the basic theme of the book is, you say that many people feel powerless in the face of what they see on TV and read in the news. And that's something that I also often feel. I want to have a difference, but I don't know really where to begin or how to do it. And I wanted to ask you if you had maybe one particular insight that could help us, especially the younger generation, to start making a difference in the right direction, let's say.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. Many people come to me and say the world is such a mess, and what you've handed down to us is so abîmé, so badly injured, that what I feel, they often feel helpless and quite depressed. And so I say to them two questions. The first question is, what breaks your heart? Because that's where your power lies, in what breaks your heart. When you watch the news, whether it's refugees or wounded animals or disease or climate, whatever it is, whatever breaks your heart is where your energy is. And that's very precious, very important. Second question, what are your skills? Are you good at social media? Are you good at drawing and painting? Are you good at writing poetry? Are you good at crowdfunding? Are you good at gathering a group of friends around you to join you? And then you marry your skill, which is your main skill, with what breaks your heart. And that gives you your direction. And I can guarantee that if you do that, within a few weeks, people will gravitate to you like a magnet. And you'll get something going with people who feel like you do and want to do something. And you'll cook it up together, what exactly it is. And within a couple of years, you'll have your own organization and you'll be making big change.
Thank you so much. Stephanie, yeah, Stephanie, do you have a question also?
Yes, I wanted, you were talking about nature and yes, how important it is, and I wonder if it is maybe nature that helps you to recenter, to reconnect with your integrity and your values, or what else is there that helps you to do that? And especially at this time where so many people face inner chaos at home, right?
Okay.
Can you maybe tell us a bit how you yourself reconnect with yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Very good question. I think it's an important one. I believe that a daily practice of some kind of self-reflection is vital. And I only learned this quite late in life, maybe from 30 years old onwards. And so any practice that attracts you, whether it's meditation, whether it's self-reflection, yoga, walking in nature, doing a dialogue with a colleague and a friend on an inner level, anything which helps you to know yourself better will ground you. Because in my experience working with peace builders all over the world, I work with very large numbers of people working in very, very tough conditions, hot conflict, people shooting at them. And those who are most effective are the ones who have learned the inner work, have learned to understand themselves. So for example, if you have a strong inner critic, which most of us do, that wakes you up in the middle of the night and tells you you made a mistake or you did something wrong, you need to develop a dialogue with that inner critic, because otherwise it can hold you back. It can halt you when you're trying to do what you want to do. Is that familiar to all of you? Do you have an inner critic? Yes? Yeah, everybody does. Sometimes I ask an audience of 300 people to raise your hand if you have not got an inner critic. Nobody's hands go up. So if you look in my book, there's a new book just coming out next week. If you look on my website, it's called The Mighty Heart. The Mighty Heart, How to Transform Conflict. And in that book, you'll find a step-by-step guide how to develop a dialogue with your inner critic. Because if you do it systematically, it takes a while, and you have to be quite brave, because my inner critic is like a dragon. It's like fire-breathing dragon when it chases me. And so I had to be quite brave to slow down. I want to talk to you. Because as long as we go, no, 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 to what we're afraid of, it's going to follow us. So my advice is anything that you're scared of, walk towards it and develop a dialogue with it. Don't be scared. And because it has a key, like almost a diamond of truth for you. But in my case, the dragon has its claw and it has a diamond underneath the claw. And I have to get near enough to the dragon to ask it to release the diamond. And every time that I get close enough to do that, I learn something fundamental about my life or my path or what I need to do next. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's a very good advice, and I really speaks to my heart as well, I must say.
Okay, good.
Louise, do you have a question?
It's difficult to have a clear question. You talk about so much things. That was so much interesting. I've got too much question maybe at the end, but maybe my question would be how do you know? I'm also like doing some project, and I maybe don't know when I succeeded and where to stop, where to begin a new one. How do you cope with that, and how do you sometimes let your product live? And yeah, that would be my question.
I think I would advise you to ask your colleagues to be honest with you and say, is this the time you would advise me to stop, do something else? Or can you tell me what else I could do that would be useful? Because your friends are your best guides often. I mean, I would ask inside myself first, have I completed this? Am I satisfied? Is there something else I need to do? And then if you don't get the answer there, ask your friends.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And maybe as a kind of conclusion or final segment to this interview, we wanted to come back to the center, to the home, and we wanted to ask you if there was some kind of object that you have in the room where you are right now that you could show us, or that you have somewhere else that you could describe us, that really has inspired you throughout your own transformative journey, or for example, an object that makes you feel at home wherever you are. What would that be?
There are two. First of all, it's flowers. I don't know if you can see these flowers, but they are, they come at this time of year. They're very, very fragrant. And they were my mother's favorite flowers. And I think we planted some at home for humanity, something very similar to this. So planting bulbs in the soil that are dormant all winter and then come out with this incredible beauty by magic in the spring is something very dear to my heart. The other thing that's in my home is a big picture version of this. Can you see it on your screen? It's okay. Can you see what it is? Mark, what can you see?
I can see a woman on kind of the sea with a lot of waves and a dragon below it.
Yeah, it's quite right. She is the goddess Kuan Yin, the Chinese goddess of compassion. And if you Google her, her name is Kuan, K-W-A-N-Y-I-N, and she is the goddess of compassion. And in this is a very rare picture of her. The reason I'm showing it to you is because, first of all, when I moved into my house, this rolled up old scroll fell out of my cupboard. I didn't put it there. And when I unrolled it, here was this picture. And I asked Chinese scholars if they knew what the words were here on the side. And they said, it's too old, we don't know that kind of Chinese. So this is a very ancient picture. And the reason, I was completely mesmerized by it. And I couldn't work out why. And then I did understand. First of all, I Googled her and I learned a bit about her. And secondly, I realized that she, who is this poised, beautiful compassionate. She's pouring compassion out of that bottle into the sea of compassion. So she's deeply compassionate, but she's also so calmly balanced on the scaly back of the dragon. And she's in her bare feet. And he, the dragon, who is in China not a symbol of evil or menace, he's a symbol of power. So the red dragon, if you look anywhere in China, is the huge emblem of, I think, masculine power and benign power. He's at her service. He's carrying her through the stormy sea. Now, that to me is one of the ways in which the masculine and the feminine can work together in the future. So up to now, as we all know, the feminine has been very badly treated and injured and suppressed in all our lives, for men as well. And men are just as able to exhibit the qualities of feminine intelligence, what we call femme Q, like IQ, EQ, femme Q. So it's a problem for men too, that we bring the masculine and the feminine into balance. And that's in every area of life. We need to do that. Our own lives, our families, our communities, our schools, everywhere. And that is the opportunity open to us now in this age as never before. So this is why I have made postcards of this image. I can send it to you if you like, because I think it's a wonderful example of how the masculine and feminine can work together, not conflict with each other, not insult each other, not try to have power struggles.